As the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting a blood-orange glow over Jerusalem, the air grew heavy with grief and fear. The crucifixion of Jesus had shaken the city. On the hill of Golgotha, the crowd had dispersed, leaving only a few mourners at the foot of the cross. Among them stood Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy member of the Sanhedrin, a man of about 50 years, with a neatly trimmed beard streaked with gray and deep-set eyes that now brimmed with sorrow. He had been a secret disciple of Jesus, cautious in his faith due to his position, but the sight of Jesus' lifeless body on the cross shattered his reticence. Joseph's heart pounded as he resolved to act. The Sabbath was approaching, and Jewish law demanded that no body remain unburied by sundown. He could not let his Lord's body be discarded in a common grave. With trembling hands, he adjusted his fine linen robe and set out for the governor's palace to seek an audience with Pontius Pilate. The streets of Jerusalem were chaotic, filled with Passover pilgrims and Roman soldiers, but Joseph moved with purpose, his face set like flint. In the dim light of Pilate's courtyard, Joseph bowed before the Roman governor, a man in his late 40s with a stern face and thinning hair. Pilate, surprised by the request, questioned Joseph closely. "You want the body of the Nazarene?" he asked, his voice tinged with suspicion. After confirming with the centurion that Jesus was indeed dead, Pilate granted permission. Joseph thanked him and hurried back toward Golgotha, clutching the official decree. As Joseph approached Golgotha, he was met by Nicodemus, another secret follower of Jesus. Nicodemus, a Pharisee in his early 60s, had a long white beard and wore a dark robe with a prayer shawl draped over his shoulders. His eyes, red from weeping, met Joseph's, and without words they understood their shared mission. Nicodemus carried a heavy bundle he owned 100 pounds of myrrh and aloes, fragrant spices for burial. The two men, bound by their love for Jesus, steeled themselves for the task ahead. The hill was nearly deserted now, save for a few Roman soldiers and the women who lingered near the cross. Mary Magdalene, in her late 30s, with tear-streaked cheeks and dark hair falling loose from her headscarf, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, in her early 50s, her face etched with unimaginable grief, her blue robe stained with dust. Joseph and Nicodemus approached the cross, their hearts breaking at the sight of Jesus' body bruised, bloodied, and lifeless, yet still bearing a quiet dignity. The Roman soldiers, under orders to ensure the body was removed before the Sabbath, allowed Joseph and Nicodemus to proceed. Joseph, with steady hands, climbed a wooden ladder to the cross, his face close to Jesus' wounds. Nicodemus stood below, holding the ladder and passing up a linen cloth. The soldiers had already broken the legs of the other crucified men to hasten their deaths, but Jesus, already dead, had been spared this indignity. Instead, a spear had pierced his side, leaving a gaping wound from which blood and water had flowed. As Joseph carefully loosened the nails from Jesus' hands and feet, the weight of his body slumped forward. Nicodemus helped lower him gently to the ground, wrapping the linen cloth around him to cover his nakedness. The women, Mary Magdalene and Mary, watched in silence, their sobs breaking the stillness. The act was tender, deliberate, each movement filled with love and reverence. Joseph's hands trembled as he touched the cold skin of his Savior, and Nicodemus whispered a prayer under his breath. Joseph and Nicodemus carried Jesus' body to a nearby garden, where Joseph owned a new tomb hewn from rock. The garden was quiet, filled with the scent of olive trees and blooming flowers, a stark contrast to the violence of Golgotha. They laid Jesus on a stone slab just outside the tomb, under the shade of a fig tree. Mary Magdalene and Mary followed, carrying water and cloths to assist. Nicodemus unpacked the myrrh and aloes, their pungent aroma filling the air. Together, the group washed Jesus' body, gently cleansing the blood and dirt from his wounds. Mary, Jesus' mother, traced her fingers over the marks on his hands, her tears falling silently. Joseph and Nicodemus worked methodically, wrapping the body in strips of clean linen, layering the spices between the folds as was the Jewish custom. The linen clung to Jesus' form, preserving his dignity in death. The women helped, their hands steady despite their grief, ensuring every detail was perfect. As the last rays of sunlight faded, they completed the task. The body was fully wrapped, only Jesus' face visible, serene in death. Joseph and Nicodemus exchanged a glance, knowing the Sabbath was imminent. There was no time for further mourning. They had to place Jesus in the tomb. Joseph led the group to the tomb, a cave carved into a rocky hillside, its entrance low and narrow. The interior was cool and dark, the stone walls smooth and untouched, as the tomb had never been used. Joseph and Nicodemus carried Jesus' wrapped body inside, placing it on a stone ledge carved into the wall. The linen shroud gleamed faintly in the dim light, and the scent of myrrh lingered. Mary Magdalene and Mary stood at the entrance, unwilling to leave. Mary, Jesus' mother, reached out as if to touch her son one last time, but her hand fell back, trembling. Joseph placed a hand on her shoulder, his own eyes wet with tears. Nicodemus recited a brief prayer, his voice echoing softly in the tomb. With the Sabbath moments away, they had no choice but to leave. Joseph and Nicodemus rolled a large round stone across the entrance, sealing the tomb. The sound of the stone grinding into place was final, like the closing of a chapter. The women sat outside, weeping, as the first stars appeared in the sky. Joseph and Nicodemus departed to observe the Sabbath, promising to return after it ended. The garden fell silent. The tomb now, a sacred space holding the body of the Savior.